Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Clyde Sharadi from Africa Media Australia. And on this edition of African Knowledge, we're talking comedy and the art of comedy. And we'll have a special guest tonight who will be talking to us about that. But before we go there, we will just start with our intro and we'll Thank you very much for all of you who are watching African Knowledge. It's a pleasure for me to know that you're watching. And again, we continue to receive very good feedback from all of you who are very much interested in what we are doing. And there's a very, very positive feedback that we are getting. And we hope that we'll continue to provide you with content that is not only relevant, but also that helps you to learn a little bit more from many Africans who are able to come to the platform and share their skills, their experience, their knowledge, their insight, wisdom, and just their powerful story, because we all have a story to watch. So, as I was saying early in the intro, we are talking today about African Australian comedy, and my guest tonight is AKWASI OSEI-TUTU. Good evening, sir. How are you going today?
Not bad yourself, Clyde?
Good to have you on our platform. How's things?
Thanks for having me, first of all. Yeah, things are very, obviously I'm in Melbourne right now, and I take it you are too. So
yes,
things have been interesting. So
interesting.
Obviously with regards to the lockdown, I mean, it feels like we've been locked up for quite some time now. So it's
slowly
starting to kind of get to everybody, I think.
Yes, it is, and they keep extending it. And I was saying the other day, when I was at uni, when you get an extension, you get excited. That means you could finish your work. But with this sort of extension we're getting from Daniel Andrews, it's another kind of extension, isn't it?
This is the worst kind of extension anyone can hope for, and he seems to keep delivering it to us, even when we don't need it. So yeah,
even though when we don't need it or we don't want it.
Need it. We're like, we've had enough. Thank you. 200 and whatever, 10, 15 days. I think we've had enough of extension.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a bit more that we know who you are, where you're from, and what you've been doing since you arrived in Australia.
So my name is AKWASI. I'm a stand-up comedian in Melbourne. I was born in the UK, and I spent quite a lot of my youth in Ghana, and also quite a lot in Perth. So we moved to Perth in '96. And, I went to university, high school there, went to university there as well. And I decided to move to Canada in about 2010. And so I was in Toronto for 2 years, came back to Perth, and I was only there for a few months and decided to move to Melbourne. So I came to Melbourne about 2012. And yeah, I've been here for a long time, and I've only really started comedy. I've been a comedian for about 4 years now, and it's easily the most challenging and the best thing I've ever done in my life. So I've only really started. I'm a sporty person, so I used to play football as a semi-professional in Perth. So we got paid to play. So it was a serious part of my life, and now things have kind of moved. So I used to play football as
into comedy now
in Perth. So we got paid to play. So
all right, what has led you to go into comedy?
Serious part of my life. I got to a point in my life where I don't
into comedy now.
I wanted to improve on the weakest parts.
What has led you to go into
comedy?
So
when I was all through high school and university, standing in front of groups of people is just something that I never enjoyed. I mean, in front of friends or in front of people that I'm familiar with, no problem at all. But if it came to a presentation, is just something anything along those lines, I kind of freaked out. So I got to a point in my life where I simply just wanted to improve my public speaking. And so I kind of freaked out. Tried a few different things. I don't know if you've heard of Toastmasters. I simply just wanted to improve.
Yeah.
So I tried Toastmasters. It wasn't really for me. And then
Huh?
no, it wasn't for me. I tried it. I was like, what?
It didn't work.
No. And so I decided, I've always loved comedy. Comedy has been stand-up comedy is something that I've always enjoyed, but I never thought that I would
It didn't
kind of
work.
pursue this. And initially, I wasn't trying to pursue it. I just wanted to find a different way to get on stage. And I was thinking to myself, how do I do this? What's the best way for me to do it? And I thought, well, I like comedy, so let me try it just once, you know. And the very first time I tried it, it was you get 5 minutes on stage. It was the worst 5 minutes of my life. It was horrible.
So you were shaking and all the, very nervous.
I was shaking, nervous, and it was a place in Northcote. It's called Smart Politely. I don't think it's being run anymore. But Clyde, prior to going to performing that day, I remember I went a couple of weeks prior, and I went to watch the comedians. I just sat in the back, and 2 weeks later, I kind of signed my name up and performing that day. I think I was the fourth comedian. The first three comedians, they did really well, and I was shaking. I was freaking out. I was thinking, oh my God. And then when I got up there, I improvised for the first minute, and that went well. And then the remaining 4 minutes was just horrible. I was freaking out. I was thinking, oh my God.
Okay. Well, a lot of people are very afraid to speak publicly. And then that's one. And then the second, you have to make people laugh.
Right.
And then you may quickly realize that they are not laughing, and then you freak out twice.
You freak out. Exactly. A lot of people say that, and I'm not saying this because I'm a comedian, but I feel that comedy is the toughest art form because with other art forms, people there to support you. Comedy people there to support you as well, but with comedy, people look at you like, oh, you said you're funny, right? Okay, make me laugh.
Yes.
And it's tough. It's tough. So with music, people are there to, no matter how you do, people are clapping for you. You're doing well. But we get feedback immediately.
That's right.
Laugh, it's good. If you don't, well, I need to work on my joke a little bit more. So we get instant feedback.
All right. And how have you been faring since your first gig up to now? Tell us a bit more what you've been doing.
So I guess after that, I didn't go back for about 4 months because I was devastated. I was really upset. I was frustrated because I thought it would go better than that, but no, it didn't. So after I got over the disappointment, I started writing a few more jokes, and I tried again. It was a little bit better. The third time wasn't good, and the fourth time was better, and I kept on improving. And slowly but surely, I got better at the art form. And look, I've had a show in Sydney. I've had a show in Perth, and I've also I've had about 3 shows in Melbourne. So I've done Melbourne, and I also had a show at the Melbourne Comedy Festival, which was just 4 months ago.
Okay, is it hard for an African Australian person to do comedy in the Australian context, or is it the same? Because I suppose if you make jokes, people will laugh. But what types of jokes?
Exactly. What types of jokes? That's a good question. So it can be tough for an African sometimes, such as myself, because if I tell an African joke to an African crowd, everyone gets it, everyone understands what I'm talking about. But when I'm preparing for jokes and I do gigs across Melbourne, most of the people at the venue are white. So that's tricky for someone like me to kind of have to explain what I'm talking about. So once I tell a joke that I feel is an African joke, and the white audience laughs, I know for a fact that if I take that to an African crowd, they're all gonna laugh. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So sometimes I feel like I have to do it tough.
Yeah,
that's when I'm working on African jokes. When I'm just working on other jokes, then that's for everybody.
All right, let's watch a little snippet of your gigs. Let's go with
here last night, and
All right,
I was listening to a wonderful comedian by the name of Oliver Twist, and I just wanted to check out the venue. So I'm sitting right there, and Oliver's in here somewhere, but he looks so different. I was wearing a hat, and I'm wearing contacts today, but I was wearing glasses. So he's got hair, he doesn't have a beard, and Oliver's in here somewhere. But I can't. Once everyone left, I kind of stood on the stage, kind of just to get a feel of the stage. I was wearing glasses, and he's got hair. So I'm standing about here. This white dude, the curtains were open. This white dude, old man, he's walking by, and he looks at me, he turns and looks at me, and goes, "You were fantastic." And he just kept on walking, and then he takes a step back again. He looks at me, he's like, "You're not." I go, "No, no, no."
Okay. Tell us a bit more about that.
So that was in Sydney. I had a show in Sydney very recently, I think about 3 months ago. So I had some shows at the Melbourne Comedy Festival.
Tell us a bit more about
that. And as soon as that finished, I went to Sydney and I had a show in Sydney. And basically, what I was talking about in that joke was I was just checking out the venue the night before my show. So when I went there was another African man by the name of Oliver Twist, and he's a stand-up comedian. He wasn't doing a show, but he was being interviewed and on stage, and he was just being interviewed. And I was just in the audience. So when the show finished, I went to stand on the stage. For most of the people had left. I just wanted to stand on the stage to get a feel of the stage because I was going to be on the stage the next night. And as I'm standing on the stage, kind of getting a feel of the stage, an old man walks past me. And he looks at me as he's about to exit. He looks at me standing on the stage and he says, "You were fantastic. You did really well today." And so he confused me, old man, for Oliver Twist. And I thought that was funny.
And that's usually the case anyway.
Exactly.
A lot of white fellows think all Africans are the same. They look the same.
The funny thing is, we look totally different, especially because I have a beard. My beard is black and white, and Oliver is shaved. He has no hair on his face. So it's.
I don't know how you could have gotten that wrong.
Exactly.
Now, what's your reading of the Australian comedy? It's when you watch Australian comedians, stand-up comedians, what comes to your mind? What do you think of them?
I think they're fantastic. The Australian comedians are great. We don't have as many that are right at the top of Australian TV, if that makes sense. But we've got quite a few of us who are up and coming, like we're really coming. So we have quite a few that have had were part of the Melbourne Comedy Festival as well, and I know quite a few in Perth. So the Australian comedians, we all have different styles. My styles are totally different to the others. I know a few Ethiopian brothers that are doing really well, and a Sudanese brother as well. So we all have different styles, and I really like feeding from them. I love their energy as well. So in Melbourne, I've also started with a few friends. I've started a comedy different styles, and I really comedy show, and it's every 3 months. It's called Urban Comedy Slam. Melbourne.
Okay.
So basically, we try to get as many African comedians to showcase their skills every 3 months. So the last show was about, I think it was 5 months basically before the lockdown.
Before the lockdowns,
I was the MC, so I introduced the first comedian, I introduced the second comedian, third comedian, fourth comedian. Actually 3 comedians. And so we're trying to showcase as many African comedians as possible. So,
that's a good thing. Well, and we'll actually talk about that in a moment. When someone like myself watched Australian stand-up comedians, yes, I see there's a lot of funny things, but it looks to me that and I asked this same question to another African Australian comedian that we talked to last time, and I said, don't you think there's too much sex in Australians jokes as this in stand-up comedians? What do you think?
I guess each to their own. Quite a lot of comedians kind of look. I don't think I don't have as many jokes relating to sex because I kind of feel that it's something that I can incorporate into a bigger joke, but it can't be the focus of your joke. You know what I mean? Because it's too easy. It's a low-hanging fruit. But at the same time, some people get really uncomfortable with that. So I don't really, I guess, tend to make that the main topic of my jokes. Like I said, I insert it in a joke, but it won't be the main piece. Yeah. So look, each to their own. When people do that, I just if it's funny, it's funny. If it's not, well, you gotta find something else. But
Yeah. Okay. Well, definitely, and I suppose it still works quite well for the Australian audience because you know a lot of times they laugh and it's all funny and then it's sort of keep happening over and over. So in the Australian context is it's pretty good, I suppose. Have you had any sort of African jokes that you think sort of you've hit the mark really every time you use it in your gigs?
Yeah, I do. Well, I talk about my father a lot. I talk about my dad a lot, and he's a very interesting man. He's very funny. He doesn't even he does things that how do I explain this? He does things that are funny that he doesn't even realize it's funny.
Yeah.
And he doesn't intend to do that, but to me it's gold. It's beautiful. So I talk about my father quite a lot. And you know, I talk about I've got a particular joke with my father where he embarrassed me at high school in year 9, and he didn't mean to embarrass me, but he was just being himself, and he really embarrassed me. But that joke always hits the mark. White and black people are like, whoa, I can't believe that happened. And I also have a joke about my auntie as well. So, you know, I talk about my dad a lot. I also talk about, I've got a joke that I talk about the differences between schools. So, because I've been to school in Ghana and I've also been to school in Australia, in a Western country, and you know, things are very different. You know, for example, in Ghana, you wouldn't ever dream of interrupting a teacher when the teacher's talking in class, in front of the class, right? But in Australia, a child can just not even have to put their hand up. They can just, you know, interrupt the teacher, and the teacher, you know, will kind of work around that and work with the student. But in Africa, if you do that,
it's a problem, isn't it?
It's a problem. Yeah.
All right. Let me remind those watching, you're watching African Knowledge on Africa Media Australia, and today we're talking about comedy and the role of comedy in educating masses, educating and empowering masses, which is what actually I'm going to go into more with my guest tonight, who is AKWASI OSEI-TUTU, an African Australian comedian performing in Melbourne and all over Australia. AKWASI, what do you think about the role of comedy in educating masses, educating and empowering masses?
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because most of my jokes a lot of my jokes, there's something to learn from it. So I have people who come to my shows and they say, I had no idea about this, and I had no idea about A, B, or C. When I tell my jokes, I want people to, that's what I want people to that's the impression I want people to leave with, that they've learned something, they've picked up something. Like, for example, I talk about my name, and my name is AKWASI. AKWASI simply means that I was born on a Sunday. That's what it means. My brother is Kwame, means that he was born on Saturday. And I've got a few jokes about my people, and it's if you listen carefully, you'll learn something. So I want people to laugh and also learn something. So that has always, I think I've been very consistent with that. For my Melbourne Comedy Festival show, I had Melbourne International Comedy Festival show. I had an hour show, and within that hour, I believe at least half of it, you would have learned something.
Absolutely. All right. One of the viewers, Ez, is telling us has a bit of a noise in the background. We hope that has been resolved and there's less noise. But tell us, probably just an echo from the device, which I've just turned off. I'm hoping that will improve the noise. If still it is persisting, let us know. Yeah, and I see, for example, when I look at comedy, even in Africa, back where I come from, in the Congo, I see that the role of comedians, they often get recruited by politicians, or when they do campaigns about educating people on either disease or any type of things. And I see actually that comedy can actually teach and educate people in very powerful ways, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Look, in all honesty, for me, if I can't, there's so much to learn, and there's so much. There's kind of, especially as an African, I think there's so much that people can kind of learn from us, and I mean, other cultures can learn from us as well. So for myself, if I can't kind of educate a little bit, then there's no point in me doing it. There is zero point in me doing it. There's no point in me coming here and talking about the weather, to you, or I'll do that once in a while, but I mean that's not the core of what I'm doing. There's no point in me talking about something, I don't know, just something ridiculous, So for me, I will talk about the something ridiculous, but I'll also tell you about something else that is important and it's something that you can take away from. So I think that's a big part of who I am and what I do, and I'm proud to be doing that.
Yeah, let me remind those watching, we'll encourage you to ask questions, to make comments. We'll get our guests to answer some of those questions a little bit later during the show. Now let's watch another short video of yours and see what it gives us.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly.
Okay, this was supposed to be actually introducing.
That was in relation to lockdown number 4, I believe. So we just opened up and everything was great, and all of a sudden we got locked down again. So basically, I was just showing that we were happy to go out, everything was great, and then COVID was like, no, get back inside. So
you can't go.
You can't go out. So so that was a bit disappointing, but it was a feeling that everyone had, and I thought I had to kind of share that with everyone, and it was received very well as well.
All right, I'll play another one.
Master, Oluwa be the only God. The difference we say I am born to lead, where you are born to follow. I be mafia, yaro zongo, me a they do they follow. Prepare them be the shato, they be a for as a mu as a pointer. I'm a mabu. Are you my co-equal? My never know kata few about Chico. I'm a mabu. Why you the disrespect? When you forgive respect.
Okay, when your barber is over the top.
That's right. Most this particular video, or my barber is a barber in Collingwood, or is it Fitzroy Collingwood area, and it's called Perfect Barbershop. And the guy there, he's a Ghanaian as well, very jovial human being. And whenever I see barbers around the world, especially black barbers, they're over the top. And so I created a skit just exaggerating how over the top barbers are, and I was doing a little Ali shuffle with my feet, and then the barber's so over the top that he goes outside and he's still trying to look from different angles, and he actually crosses the road and he's still trying to see from a different angle. He's going too far, but that was just my little play on how barbers are.
Yeah, and the barber experience for Africans is kind of different from anybody else, isn't it?
Very, very different. Very different. Very different.
Because when we go to the barber, it's not just the hair; it's a whole lot of stuff involved. And
when you go to the Perfect Barbershop, I think it's in Collingwood or Fitzroy, one of them. It's the experience there is great. He's got music, he's got Afro beats every single time, and his personality is so strong and very good, and he's very welcoming. That I end up speaking to him for hours. If there's no one there, I'm speaking to him for a very long time. So yeah, the African barbershop is always a great experience. It's like coming to America. I don't know if you remember that movie with Eddie Murphy.
I remember Eddie Murphy and all that.
And you see the barbershop experience,
that is one hell of a barber experience. And apparently they're making another one coming up. They already made because
they just did.
Yeah, they just did. Yeah, I haven't watched.
You should. It was good.
Okay, that's good. What do you think of the African comedians performing in Australia? You probably will know more of them than I do. Tell us where you see African comedy in Australia.
Yeah,
at this point.
At this point, I think it's really strong. It's coming along really strong. I was encouraged by two East African brothers, and they're Ethiopian. So Joe White has been a comedian. He's currently in Melbourne. I mean, he's currently in Perth, actually. He lived in Melbourne for a little while. He's gone back to Perth, obviously with the restrictions. He's got a show coming up. So anyone in Perth, go check him out. I believe it's on the 25th of September. It's a Saturday, and it's at 6:30. So he's got two shows. One at 8:30 sold out, but a 6:30 one is on. So if you're there, go check him out. He's amazing. So he's one of the very first people to encourage me to try stand-up comedy. And there's another gentleman by the name of Sam Gabriel Selassie, and he's also Ethiopian as well. So he's in Melbourne, and he also encouraged me. He really encouraged me a lot to kind of kickstart comedy. So those brothers are always supporting each other, and I think that's fantastic. I think we really need that. It's the stick togetherness, and I don't know, Clyde. Whenever I see the black fist and people show the black fist, I don't think enough. We really need to understand what this means. It's united we stand, So it's the fist is not like this. It's not the five fingers apart. If we go apart, we're weaker. But when we put it together, I'm telling you, we can. We work with each other.
Do a lot more.
So there's comedians in Perth as well. The African comedians. There's Emo. I believe he's South Sudanese as well. He's a fantastic comedian, and he also had a comedy festival he was part of the Melbourne Comedy Festival as well, and he had a show in Brisbane very recently before the lockdown. So we also have a Cameroonian Australian comedian or Cameroonian German comedian. Her name is Aurelia Sinclair as well, and she's in Melbourne. She's a great comedian as well. So I believe the comedy scene in Melbourne is moving, or not Melbourne, in Australia. The African comedy scene in Australia is moving upwards. Like I said, we're not quite at the TV level yet, but I think there's a lot of hidden gems. Like a Joe White, he should be on TV, and there's so many that should be on TV, but haven't maybe had the opportunity. So I think that's why I think it's important that we almost create our own channels. So like I said, the Urban Comedy Slam is what I've started with a couple of friends, a Nigerian friend of mine, and a Somali friend of mine, and that's in Melbourne, and we're hopefully going to expand that as well. So things are great.
All right. And what do you think will need to be done to actually get you guys to go to that next level? What is missing?
Do you know what? In all honesty, all that's missing is our people coming. So we need to get the word out to our people. That is it. Because I know some of all these comedians, I know how good they are, but not enough of us have heard of them. And on top of that, I think we need to make an effort to support our artists, musicians, drummers, comedians. There's just so many. Even in sports, we need to support our brothers and sisters, because a lot of people are putting in some hard work. And like I said, if we are putting in all this hard work and our people aren't supporting us, it just makes it tougher. So once we have our own people backing us, and which our people are backing us, by the way. So it's not like I'm saying that our people aren't coming. They're coming. They're really supporting. But if we get even more, my goodness me, it will be amazing. It will be amazing. So we need to push ourselves out. We need to push our own people.
And do you guys have some sort of platform where I know you don't necessarily all work together, but some platform where you're starting at least to unite strength or come together to promote yourself?
I guess like I said, with the Urban Comedy Slam, that's one thing that we're trying to move. Started, and Joe White, I believe he's got something, I think it's called Best of Africa, where I think at most festivals he will have the best African comedians, and they'll have one big show where he will be the host. But we haven't created any kind of social media following in terms of all of us together. We all have our own individual ones, and I think hopefully within time we can all kind of bring that together. But we're all working separately at the moment, but we're supporting each other as well.
Because I think having a platform where you all come to at least showcase what everybody is able to give will sort of make it a little easier for the community, not just to discover. Because even myself, I've been in Australia for so long, over 20 years, and perhaps I don't always pay enough attention to comedians, but I have not noticed many of them. And when I was preparing this show, I had to put a post on my Facebook asking if everybody knows, if anyone knows a comedian. Then I had a few responses, and I'm encouraged by that. But I would like to obviously be able to see more, because I think as this community is growing, we do need entertainment that connects to our culture, and there is that role that comedians can play, especially on online sort of platform where it's so easy to share, and obviously I know comedy is better when people go to a club and all that, but in the absence of that, especially in this COVID environment, you can use online platform. But I'm trying, as part of this, that's the whole philosophy of this show, is to share, to enable Africans with various skills and experience to showcase their talents and be able to add something into the community, and the educational aspect of it, in addition to the entertainment aspect, is actually very important, isn't it?
I think I really think it's a fantastic thing that you're doing, and showcasing other Africans within Australia that maybe other people might not have noticed are working hard. So, like I said, it's really important that we kind of find each other. We work with each other. Like, whenever an artist, I try my hardest. Whenever an artist, especially an African artist, has something on, I try to put on my my social media, on stories or something. Say, hey, this person's got this. Go check it out. If I can go, I'll always go and support. But I think it's very important in terms of what you're doing. Getting not just comedians, but I'm sure you're getting other artists as well, and you kind of educating, like you said, you mentioned it a few times, and I think that is extremely important in moving forward, that we educate not just ourselves but everyone around us as well.
Okay, let's take a bit of a break, commercial break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching African Knowledge with Clash Sharadi and AKWASI, who is a comedian, and he's talking to us today about comedy, and we're talking specifically about how comedy can actually be a very empowering and educational tool. We'll start taking a few comments and questions from the public. I've got Ahmad Zirak, who says, can you please ask AKWASI why he thinks Joheed is the great?
So Ahmed is my brother from Afghanistan, and I can't believe he actually found. How did he? I can't believe he actually saw this. He's a so I worked with him at the city of Darabin Council,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we both work in HR, and we were in the recruitment team. And Ahmed is like I said, Ahmed's from Afghanistan, and he came, I think, during the very first lockdown, and we worked a lot like this. So we worked in recruitment, so we were online, kind of working with each other, and I found out that he is. He's a very knowledgeable human being. So we talked a lot about Malcolm X, for example. And I didn't expect him to kind of know anything about Malcolm X. He's a man from Afghanistan. I just never thought that would be his thing. And he went deep into kind of African history, African American history, which was very interesting. So yeah, he's a good person. And his name is Ahmed Jahid Zirak, and he's trying to say, he wants me to explain why he is the greatest. That's what he's Ahmed, if you're watching this, yes, you're the greatest, because I don't know why you're the greatest. You just are.
Okay. Well, I'm sure Ahmed will be happy with that. Now, in your show, do you crack jokes at politicians and sort of important people?
That's a good question. I don't think I've done that enough, but trust me, I'm not scared to do that. I just haven't. I haven't had the opportunity. I mean, sorry, there is an opportunity, but maybe my jokes haven't kind of gone in that direction. But no, none that I can think of at the moment.
That's all right. That's all good. Now let's talk a little bit about the news happening right now, both here and in Africa. And maybe we'll start with Africa. There's been another coup in Africa. I thought, these were things of the past, but not yet. What does inspire you?
Sorry, what was the question?
What does that inspire you? The coup in Africa. What do you think of it, and what would you like to say?
Obviously, for those that don't know, it's Guinea. There's a coup in Guinea, and it seems like the president is Alpha
Conde.
Conde, that's right. Yes, so he's been kind of the military. I think it's the military who's taken over, and they've kind of they haven't harmed him physically. However, he's been held hostage, and they don't know where he is at the moment. And it's so frustrating to we see this over and over again. And obviously, it's been taken by force. But he tweaked the constitution, which allowed him to kind of run a third term. So understandably, people are unhappy with that. And he's not the first African leader to do that. They kind of change things to kind of, work in their favor. And I think he also gave himself a pay rise, and he then decreased the pay of the security forces. So there's some unhappy people there, but I don't know if that is the reason. Like, look, I'm not an expert, so I don't know if that's the reason why this has happened. And it's sad, and I hope there's no lives lost because of this. But I've seen some videos of the people of Guinea jubilating on the streets. I don't know how much that is true, or if they're just showing little snippets of some people who are happy. So I don't know. What do you think?
But well, there are actually a lot of people who are happy. I watched quite a bit of the reporting there, both from some of the international media platform like TV5 is mostly a French type of platform, and RFI, also a French radio. There seems to be a lot of joy for him to go, because remember, this guy is over 80. I think he's 83 years old.
Oh, is he that old? Okay.
Yeah, and he should normally be gone and probably go in a nursing home of some sort, as far as I'm concerned. And he tweaked the constitution, as you said. He ran his two terms. He should have stopped at the second term, but he changed the constitution to afford himself a third term, and then he started putting a lot of political leaders who were opposing him in prison.
Or was he?
So, yeah, exactly. He put a lot of opposition leaders in prison because they were trying to resist the fact that he changed the constitution to allow himself a third mandate. And the funny thing is, the guy who deposed him, who is Mamadou something. I can't recall his name. He's actually he's a French Guinean who was actually until recently in France. He was in the Legion. What do you call it? It's French, sort of army. But because he had the Guinean nationality, he went back, and it's Alpha Conde who actually wanted him to train a special force to, I suppose, for his own security. But funny, it's the same guy who deposed him.
No way. Do you know? Oh, this is incredible. Do you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of to me, and I was telling the gentleman that who called, who had the question, Ahmed. We were talking about I was telling him, I was again educating him and about Thomas Sankara and Blaise Compaoré.
Yes.
And this is almost the same thing. I mean, Alpha hasn't been murdered, but that happened to Thomas Sankara. To me, he was one of the greatest leaders of all time.
Yeah, in Africa.
Oh my goodness! To me, the world. That guy, like when you read his history and what he did in a very short amount of time, incredible. So it's almost funny because his best friend was Blaise Compaoré.
Yes,
and Blaise ended up,
ended up deposing him and killing him.
Getting right.
Yeah, which is bad. So, anyways,
so be careful with your friends.
So the closest. Your closest friend could turn out to be your worst enemy.
Yes.
So, and this is what has happened now.
Before you even continue, Clyde, I've got a joke about Thomas Sankara. I've written it, but I haven't. I haven't. Again, we talked about educating. I haven't yet worked on it yet. It'll take me a little while because I get there's some jokes when I write it in the beginning, I get frustrated because I'm annoyed at what happened.
Yes.
And so I have to kind of take a step back, and it will take me a little while to try to find the funny bits in it, because I'm not there to lecture people. I'm there to kind of tell jokes, but I'm going to educate you at the same time. But yeah, sorry, go on.
That's all right. No, that's good. And I suppose the funny thing is, many of the international organizations are condemning the coup, but the people of Guinea seem to be happy with it, so I don't know how they're going to handle this. And I've seen some report that already it's potentially the French who are behind the coup in supporting this guy, because they were not happy that the Alpha Conde granted a very huge mining contract to the Chinese, which disadvantage. Now these are just early sort of speculation in the media. We don't know how much of that is true or not, but I wouldn't be surprised, because
of course not.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's what the French have been doing for a long time. So hopefully, the future will reveal a bit more. Let's take another comment. We have Sarah King who says, happy I tune in. Thanks, AKWASI. Sounds knowledgeable and entertaining. Is there an online comedy show? Well, they're calling for an online comedy show, my friend.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That's really kind of you. I'm glad you tuned in, and I'm glad you're enjoying this. There hasn't been, it's been tough during COVID. Like most people are trying to do is kind of get their head, especially in Melbourne. What we're trying to do is I'm just trying to keep my head above water without getting too frustrated. So, it's most people. Our creative process has kind of suffered a little bit, it's suffered a little bit because we're really frustrated. We're like, when is this going to end? But you're right. Stand-up comedy, Clyde, it doesn't necessarily translate very well online. You speak to it doesn't, because we love a live audience. We've got a mic in front of us and we're talking to people, and that it's just too different. I'll be interested to hear what other comedians, almost every comedian that I've spoken to has gone, no, I don't want to do online comedy. It just doesn't work properly. But skits, yes, I've been doing little skits here and there, but I can do that on my own time. But yeah, thank you very much, Sarah. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Yeah, and I was going to ask you that question because even the other guy we talked to last time also mentioned that he said it's a little difficult to do comedy online without any audience because you don't get that feedback that you need.
Correct, correct,
Um,
correct.
but and
And
then I suppose we just have to think hard because who knows when this COVID thing will end? It could be a million years, and you need to find a way to get some sort of feedback, even if it is some digital laugh, laughter, noise of some sort
I'll give
that
you
you
an
get back.
example. It's like you know how uh, children are being homeschooled right now.
Yes,
Yeah, you can teach your kid during you can do the homeschooling, but it's never going to be the same as having a teacher in front of the class and the
right.
child being with their friends. It's a whole new different experience. So
Yes,
it's totally different. So yeah,
yeah,
I know what you
I
mean. I
know.
know what you mean.
All right. Have you sort of? I mean, I know the government supports arts in general, and there's the Victorian what do you call it, multicultural arts
Yep,
council of some sort that is
yep.
that, and they tend to support musicians and painters and all that sort of thing. Do they also approach you, or have there been any sort of communication to assist you guys as comedians?
No, no, no one has approached us. Trust me, we're not we're not on the I don't think we're on the list. Musicians maybe, and even they're struggling. Even the musicians are not being looked after that well. So um no, we haven't been approached at all. I did work with in the beginning of the pandemic, I was working with Footscray Community Arts Center.
Mm-hmm.
And the beautiful thing about that is um, I was speaking to kids online like this, and I was telling them about my story. So like year 9 students, year 10 students, and I believe some year 11 students. So I spoke to I believe about 4 different classes at 4 different times. And for me, that was very rewarding, kind of telling them about my experience and how I'm trying to Clyde, I'm trying to basically turn my ship around. So I work in an office job in human resources. It's not
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily what I want to do, and it doesn't necessarily show who I am. I'm a very jovial person. I'll see you on the street. I'll laugh with you. I'll have a joke. I speak to people, random people on the train, and I'm always kidding. I'm always joking around, but that's who I am. So to tell those kids about my experience and telling them that, look, anything you want to do, it's time, consistency, and you also have to be mentally strong as well, and kind of just go for whatever it is that you want to do. So that was kind of the message that I was passing on to the kids, and especially discipline. Discipline is almost everything. It basically is everything. If you can be disciplined in anything you do, you'll be all right.
Yeah, you have the key for success.
Yeah,
Um,
it really is.
and obviously, you're saying that you haven't been approached, but have you yourselves, either on an individual basis or on some sort of association base, made any step to
I
approach?
I I I personally haven't reached out because I'm also working from home. So working from home, I work for a council, like I said, and you know, I've got my job, so I'm
Yeah,
not really suffering in that
yeah,
area. However, I know other comedians are, and
yeah.
other comedians that don't have a job, they're suffering in that area as well. So, um, no, I haven't. No, I haven't.
That's okay. I suppose that as I said to the other guy as well, there may be a room for you guys to set up a platform that some type of association that
Yeah,
may allow you then to approach, the institutions that are created and designed to help all forms of art. See if they can assist you because
yeah.
there is some room in that. Now, um, when you look at the African Australian community uh, as a whole, where do you see the community as where it is? Is it are we advancing fast enough, or are we sort of stagnating, or are we quite behind in the Australian context? And what you as a comedian, what sort of comes from to you from your inspiration that you could perhaps look into encouraging that more?
I think we're coming along really well. across. When my family first moved to Perth, we were one of the very few black people there. That was in '96. We were in Perth, and I'm in Melbourne now. But back then, there wasn't many black people, and all of a sudden, within a decade, another decade, all of a sudden there's black people everywhere. I don't know what Melbourne was like, but there's Africans everywhere, which is great to see. And I think it's also fantastic to see right now that we're really supporting each other, and it's starting to build. Like the momentum is building, which is it warms my heart that we're starting to support each other, because that is what is going to kind of get us out of any issues or any trouble that we're in. I talk about group economics a lot. Even I've got a joke about group economics, and again, I've not flushed it out properly on stage. I've written it down because I get a little bit frustrated sometimes. I'm like, God, like if you look at how the Jewish community are, they look after each other. I mean, they spend money within their community. Yes. And the money circulates within the community. It doesn't go out of the community. I believe it's about 12 times. So the money goes around 12 before it leaves the community. Asians, I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe it's about 10. You got Middle Easterns. About 8. Yes. Africa, I mean, the black people, it's 0. I'm talking about I'm getting these statistics from the African American experience, and it's very similar everywhere. That's how we are. So if we can keep our money within our community, group economics, I'm telling you, like that is our way to our salvation. Absolutely. And, I truly believe that. But even in the art space, I feel like whenever I have a show, Africans are always coming to support, and they're pleasantly surprised. So I had a show in Sydney, and I had about 85 people turn up, and it was just a show that I did really quickly. And these people, most of them African, came they don't know me. They didn't know me from a bar of soap, and they see me online, but they came to support. And I thought it was very fantastic. At the end of the show, Clyde, I literally I got teary, and for 30 seconds I couldn't speak. I was like, that was when I was thanking everybody at the end. I was like, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And I got a bit emotional, So, and when I have my shows in Perth, a lot of Africans come. When I have shows in Melbourne as well, a lot of Africans come. So I think maybe that might not have happened some years back, but now we're starting to understand the importance of supporting each other, and I hope it continues. I know it will, and it warms my heart.
Yeah, absolutely. They need to support each other. They need to hire each other's services, or the group economics. The buy black thing in the US is quite significant, and it should also be the same in our communities here and everywhere, because economic power is very important. I see we do a lot of things on the cultural level, where the festivals and all that getting together, but economically we're still sort of learning. I mean, as you said, things are starting to change.
Yes.
But there's still a lot more room that needs to be filled, and money brings power, and we need to be able to find ways to support each other to raise our economic power, and that's how we will be able to do even better and leave a better legacy for our children.
That's correct. Like nobody's going to do this for us.
Nah, absolutely
nobody's going to do it for us. And like you just said, it's really it's interesting, because sometimes it's not for us; it's for our kids.
Yes, exactly.
We got to leave them something, If we don't, then they're the ones that suffer.
That's right. We have to leave them better than what we're able to get for ourselves.
Absolutely.
All right, we'll play one more video, and then we'll be approaching the end of the show. Let's go for one more. How to entertain yourself.
667, 668, 669. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, is that how you entertain yourself when you are in lockdown?
During lockdown, exactly. So, I start off by counting oats, And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, let me count the sugar.
Good luck with that.
Oh man, I'm still counting.
Yeah. Well, I suppose we can sort of finish with that. What would you suggest that people do to entertain themselves during this lockdown? Because it's not easy.
It really isn't easy. I started picking up the guitar again, so I'm playing the guitar. I'm self-taught, so playing the guitar. What else? Oh, I've been writing a lot with jokes, but it gets a bit frustrating because I can't. When I write a joke as a comedian, or when comedians write a joke, we then need to test it out. But I've written so much, like it's overflowing, and I've not had opportunity to test it out. But what would I suggest? Oh, I think for me, I'm trying to disengage from watching the news too much because
it's depressing.
It's very, very depressing, and it's not good for your mental health. I'm telling you, you can't be sitting in front of the news watching that all the time. You're gonna be afraid, and it's too much. So what I'm trying to do personally, I'm trying to kind of watch things that are a little bit more upbeat and things that kind of put a smile on my face, because I don't want to watch anything too serious, because it's not like I can go outside and kind of relieve that stress and go catch up with a friend. So yeah.
When you have Daniel Andrews standing for hours and hours and lecturing us about all this.
Lecturing us, exactly. Lecturing us.
I suppose he will argue he's doing his job, but at the same time, it's just kind of too much in the face, so to speak.
It's too much, yeah. For us, I mean, we should. He's doing his job, but we've got to make sure we're not tuning in every single day and hour, because it becomes too much.
Yeah.
It becomes too much.
Before we finish, have you heard of? I mean, there are a lot of jokes about how white people, sort of look at Africans. Many of them think, we come from those huts in the village and all that sort of thing. I don't know if you have any few. We got quite a few of those jokes going around in many communities. Have you ever tried to sort of use those in your gigs or not, or that's maybe too sensitive?
Not in my jokes, but not in my gigs. But what I used to do it quite a lot in high school and also in university. Just speaking with people and kind of taking them down a rabbit hole, saying, "Oh yeah, we used to do this. This is where we used to live," and telling them lies. But now that I'm older, I've done that so many times that I don't want to do that on stage. But I've done it so many times that I actually feel bad when I leave someone on because I take him down a path and I say, "Hey, yeah, this is what we do. We do this. We live in huts. We ride animals, and we do all those things." And I've done that too many times to be doing that on stage again. But look,
okay. Well, I'll tell you one. I'm not a comedian, but I got a few jokes, and maybe this guy, he approaches the African. He's an Australian. He approaches the African friend and say, "Hey, I watched this thing on TV where I see Africans sleeping on trees. Is that really true?" And the guy says, yes, that is true. As a matter of fact, the Australian ambassador in our country, he's got a very big tree that he got the biggest tree in the village. Maybe if and there's the Australian flag on top of that tree. Anyway, I don't know if that's funny or not, but anyway,
I like it.
Okay, all right. We're getting to the end of the show. Sarah King says, "Come to Byron Bay." So they're waiting for you in Byron Bay.
Byron Bay. Oh, I wish you'd come to Sydney when I had my show there.
All right. We very much appreciate your time to African Knowledge. This is obviously the first time, but we hope it's not the last. In fact, we want to be able to have a section as part of this show that will be pretty much about comedy and humor, and we will be asking people to send their jokes. I know many of us have jokes from our countries, from our culture, from our workplace, from many settings, and we want to be able to sort of have all that and crack jokes and talk about, because we need to look at the funny side of life in this
Absolutely.
time of crisis and COVID and death, and people are fearful that they may be the next, all that sort of thing. Perhaps
Mm.
having a laugh might be a good thing. So probably from next week we'll be starting some campaign out there to get people to share jokes, and we'll get a couple of comedians, excuse me, yourself and other who may be willing to participate on maybe every second day or so, have a bit of a fun and looking at what is happening, and both in terms of the news, but also what's happening in our community, what's happening in Africa, and how we can look at that from a humoristic perspective.
When you mentioned people kind of sending jokes in, it kind of reminds me of my dad. When I did my very first show, he's like, he was surprised how well it went, and he was like, "Oh, okay, now that you're a comedian, I have more jokes for you, eh? I'll write some jokes for you, and I'll give them to you. Akwasi, no problem. I'll write." And he starts writing jokes. I'm like, "Dad, I'm not taking your jokes. Like, I'm running from my experience." He's like, "Oh, no problem. If you need
No
some
problem.
jokes, let me know. I'll write it for you."
Yeah, you can get some experience, some inspiration from that.
That's
All
it.
right, for those of you who've been watching, we thank you for watching. We thank our guest AKWASI OSEI-TUTU for spending some time with us tonight. Maybe one last message you wanna give out there, AKWASI. You wanna say anything to the people watching?
Oh, I guess I presume most people will be from Melbourne and Sydney, and look,
All of
just
Australia.
all of Australia. I guess
Yeah.
people in Perth are, they're living their best lives. They're having a great time, so
Yes.
they're not in lockdown. But
Not in lockdown.
for the rest of us, look, we're almost there. So keep pushing through, and I think just keep the head clear, and
Yeah.
try not to be too. I mean, it's frustrating, but try to be as positive as possible. We'll be out soon, and hopefully, we can all mingle fairly soon. So, thank you very much for having me, Clyde. I really appreciate it, and have a good night,
All right.
everybody.
Thanks, man. Thank you. And as usual, we encourage you to share this video, to like our Facebook page, to subscribe on our YouTube channel. And if you have something that you want to share with the community, any expertise you may have, any story, powerful story that may inspire others, or some experience that can add value into the community, do not hesitate to contact us. This platform is just for that. Until next time, stay safe and stay blessed.